Okay, I think we're there. I think there's not that many more people joining. So as I said, welcome to this Chartered Institution of Water and Environmental Management Central Southern Branch webinar. My name's Darren Lombroso. I'm chairing it, and we've got two very interesting presentations looking at the subject of sustainable drainage systems, specifically new tools, and what's around the corner. And this is taking place as part of CIWEM's Flood Resilience and Adaptation and Nature-Based Solution and Water Governance series. So before we start, just a few housekeeping things that are important. Firstly, this event will be recorded. The speakers have given their permission for this to be recorded. So this will appear on CIWEM's YouTube channel. There's the address there. If you hover at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the two chat boxes, or there's a Q&A and a chat box. So if you experience any technical issues and you need some help, please raise your hand and use the chat facility on Zoom to let CIWEM know that there's a problem, and they will try and provide you with some help. And then most importantly, if you've got questions which we'll be taking at the end of the presentation, then please use the Q&A facility. So put your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat, and any issues you have in the chat, any technical issues. This event will be worth 1 hour of continuing professional development. However, CIWEM don't provide continuing professional development certificates, as this is not a CPD accredited training event. So that's the housekeeping. So the main thing to remember, questions in the Q&A box, technical questions or technical issues regarding Zoom in the chat. So about CIWEM, so CIWEM's a Royal Chartered Professional Body, an independent charity. You've got the web address there, the address for CIWEM chat, the CIWEM strategy, and if you're interested in membership, there's the address for the membership page. And so CIWEM has got a large number of members, over 11,000 members, and 57 universities and different organizations in around 90 countries throughout the world. So it's a community of practitioners, researchers, looking at things like adaptation and resilience to climate change, enhancing the built environment, and improving water security. And CIWEM's mission is to improve water and environmental management for the public. And it's a UK Royal Chartered Institution charity and a professional membership body. So it's recognized as kind of an independent and trusted voice on water. So with that, we start the real bit of interest. I'll introduce both speakers now. So our first speaker is Bridget Woods-Ballard. She's a technical director in the Floods and Water Group at HR Wallingford, and she's been doing research and consultancy into sustainable drainage systems for probably over 25 years, including playing a key part in the CIRIA Manual on SuDS guidance. And then we've got Adrien Baudremont. He's a senior research manager at CIRIA, and he focuses on surface water management and biodiversity within the built environment. So I will now stop talking and I will hand over to Bridget for the first presentation.
Thanks, Darren. And thanks for everyone for joining today. So when we thought about this presentation, Adrian and I were conscious that there were things happening, principally Ofwat Innovation funded projects that both HR Wallingford and CIRIA are heavily involved with that will have a big, potentially, hopefully, have a big impact on industry, the SuDS industry and SuDS stakeholders going forwards over the next couple of years. And we wanted to just introduce those to you. Since we planned that the event, the government has actually published new SuDS standards, which you may or may not be aware of. These have been on the horizon for many years, and I have to say I've probably given up on thinking that they were ever going to be published. But a few weeks ago, they were, and so I've incorporated, just to start with, as I think it sets good context for the need for new guidance and new tools. So as context, I'm going to whiz through just very high level what those new standards look like, and then it'll be really clear as to why we need good new supporting guidance and good new tools to help practitioners navigate those and plan and approve and design new schemes. So these are the new standards. They're published on DEFRA's gov.uk website. They were published in June. Important to say that they are still non-statutory. So they basically replace the previous non-statutory technical standards for SuDS, but they're far more extensive and cover far more topics. So this is not the implementation of Schedule 3 of the Flood and Water Management Act, which has been implemented in Wales. This is an extension of the National Planning Policy Framework and the associated planning practice guidance. It's to support the clauses in there in terms of giving people more direction on what is expected for SuDS to have been to have been assumed to have been delivered effectively. So it is a material planning consideration now. It should schemes should or surface water management should meet these standards to secure planning approval, but there's always a chance that SuDS could be, or the extent to which SuDS is delivered could still be juggled against other planning considerations. So as a summary, there are 11 principles set out in this guidance document and 7 standards, and I'm just going to go through those really quickly just to give you a flavour for what those look like and what the sort of key changes there are or have been since the previous version. So a set of 11 principles, and what I should probably say actually to start with is that HR Wallingford were involved a few years ago in the first draft of these standards. They were then being taken on by ACOM and finessed to where they are at the moment. These principles, there's a lot of overlap in them, to be honest. So I've just tried to pick out the sort of key messages. Mimicking natural drainage, managing water at source, sort of close to where it falls, and managing water on the surface. Those are really fundamental principles that the standards want everyone to adopt. Using SuDS components in series, so you're incrementally reducing volumes and rates of runoff and managing water quality. It defines what it calls a SuDS approach, which is about valuing rainfall, so making sure you use it wherever possible, either as a non-potable source of water or within the landscape to promote green multiple benefits to society and ecology. Using that SuDS approach to clean water, to ensure everything SuDS components are integrated throughout the development landscape, and delivering multifunctional landscapes with multiple benefits. The other further principles, again, they're quite overlapping, but ensuring surface water management is considered as early as possible in development design. It's integrated throughout the development and building design, that the scheme protects the environment, maximizes benefits. Again, all fairly similar. Making sure that you take account of existing flood risk policies. So it's trying to get that integration between the flood risk assessment and flood risk management processes as part of development planning and the drainage and surface water management planning. And making sure that you demonstrate compliance as early as possible in the planning process, and then fully to secure planning approval. So what are the standards? The first one is about runoff destinations, and there is and prioritizing destinations that are going to ensure that you are valuing rainfall as far as possible. So the priority one, what you should consider first is using the water wherever you can for non-potable use within buildings. Where that's not possible, or where that's or where you can't use it fully, then infiltration is the next should be your next priority. Then, if you are discharging off-site, you need to prioritise rivers, streams, lakes, other water bodies before you consider putting any runoff into an existing sewer. Because the recognition is that those sewers are going to be have a limited capacity, and that under climate change or urban growth, that putting more water into the sewer is going to only add pressure and potentially cause flooding or pollution spills. And the combined sewer, which then has a risk of combined sewer overflows, is absolutely the lowest priority. Standard 2 is about managing everyday rainfall. Making sure that the first initial depth of rainfall is retained on the site. And I think this standard is going to be the standard that really drives the most fundamental change through SuDS delivery. So we want to make sure that by putting in, it is only by putting in green or permeable surfaces on the site that you're going to be able to ensure that this initial depth of rainfall is retained. An impervious surface draining to a pipe system and then into a tank is not going to deliver you this interception on this interception stand. And this graph just shows what we're really aiming for with interception. It shows that these are two equivalent sites. The red line shows the response from a conventional drain system, and the green line is the response from a SuDS drain system. So the blue lines are rainfall. So you've got probably 5-8 millimeters of rainfall happening before you get any runoff at all from your SuDS site, and it's very low volume and low flow rates. Conversely, the conventionally drained site, you'll get runoff immediately it rains, and that runoff will be peaky, will be high flow rates and high volumes, and that's what we're trying to avoid to make sure that we're not putting pressure on our watercourses. Standard 3 is about the standard hydraulics of managing extreme rainfall, making sure that you don't make things worse downstream, and making sure you adequately protect the properties on your development. So that really reflects the previous version of the non-statutory standards, with some small differences. Standard 4 is about managing water quality and protecting both surface waters and groundwater from pollution by making sure that you think about the quality of that surface water runoff depending on the type of land use you've got on your development, and that you put in the components that are going to trap contaminants and ideally provide some degradation of those and reduction of those contaminant levels before the water is discharged. Standard 5 is about using surface water systems to maximize benefits for amenity, and that really brings out the or links in that creation of multifunctional space and landscape and place through the development. And that Standard 6 is biodiversity in a similar way, making sure that your surface water management system is working hard for biodiversity, and in particular trying to maximize the opportunities for delivering biodiversity net gain on the site. And the last standard is about ensuring that any design that is conceived allows for easy, safe maintenance, easy and safe construction, that there is a robust maintenance plan, and that you've thought about what might happen if the system is exceeded, or if the design is exceeded, capacity is exceeded, or if there are failure scenarios like blockages at key locations. So is it progress? Definitely, I'd say. Yep, we've definitely moved forwards. There's definitely lots of good things in there which should drive much better SuDS from where we've been to date. And I think that requirement for interception, that retention of 5 mil of rainfall on the site is really key and should drive that shift away from end of pipe solutions. There's lots in there to promote rainwater harvesting, and I think we're in a position, particularly after this summer, probably, where people recognise that, or might start realising that the south of England in particular is very water stressed, and we're really not going to have enough water available to us over the next within 20 years, even with our reservoir construction plans. It's raising the profile of quality, and amenity and biodiversity objectives, and trying to link surface water with the delivery of those. I think one techie thing that's good that we put forward was that for previously developed sites, we used to be working on just improving from the previous situation, which still meant that redevelopment sites were allowing very, very high rates of runoff. And we're now talking about using a relaxed greenfield equivalent rate rather than betterment from existing. I think that will really help with those previously developed sites and make them more similar to a natural response. And the only I suppose big challenge is that in promoting a really integrated approach, it's going to require much more collaborative working. It's going to require multi-sector upskilling, engagement, and significantly resourcing. So yeah, a challenge, but an opportunity, but a challenge too. There are a few question marks and challenges. There are a few sentences that are slightly odd. Only applies to the management of surface water runoff that is essentially uncontaminated. Well, I'd say all surface water runoff is contaminated to some extent. It talks about using proprietary measures for large car parks, which I definitely disagree with. So I think we've got to thresh through what that actually means and make sure that's not a sort of escape route. There's talk of a 1 in 1 or greater chance of events happening each month. That's something new. I don't know. I think it's sort of a bit challenging thinking about how to interpret that. Greenfield runoff rates is the big one, shall be estimated using EA's flood estimation guidelines. Those are quite complicated guidelines, and I think there's going to be challenges there if we're not going to use just the simple methods that we've used to date. Very negative, there's no removal of this automatic right to connect to water industry sewers, and there's no guarantee of long-term maintenance and funding, and that's a function of the fact that the legislation hasn't been implemented. Okay, so that's a quick skim through of the new standards and the ups and the downs of those, and I'm going to hand over to Adrian to talk about the new guidance that's going to help and support people with navigating these. Thanks.
Thank you, Bridget. Yeah, indeed, it's a great transition actually, because as you pointed out, there's a greater need for collaboration and for highlighting good practice and how to achieve those new standards. So the rainwater management platform, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what it is. First of all, I will start with the logos on top of the screen. The one on the left is the Ofwat Innovation Fund. So we were successful in a grant bid proposal a couple of months ago. And so we are absolutely thrilled that we are funded by Ofwat to carry on and build this rainwater management platform. The other logos that you see here, Wessex Water is our lead water company that is leading on this project. We have the support of UKWIR, the UK Water Industry Research, which represents all the water companies from not only the UK, but also Ireland. So it's very exciting that the whole of the water companies are supporting and that they will be ready to use and really adopt this tool once it's been built. And then we have the core team, which is comprised of HR Wallingford, Stantec, and SuDS and CIRIA. So why did we start on this journey towards a rainwater management platform? First of all, recognizing that rainwater and it has many different components, many different elements to it, and that they are very often managed in silos, whereas it's the rainwater harvesting, which is not always included in new developments. And then there's a need for retrofitting those, or if it's water once it's going down the watershed, and then it's a different story, and we're talking about SuDS or natural flood management. So wanted to try to bring everything under a single piece of guidance document. Then we are talking about the principle of good rainwater management, which the principle one is really about harvesting the water where it falls. So this is really trying to avoid the need to move the water anywhere, and then to use it and treat it as a resource. But I will talk a little bit more about that later on. As Bridget mentioned, there is a massive upskilling challenge for the water industry when it comes out to the rollout of good quality SuDS. So we are hoping that gathering together all the information on good practice with regard to designing, implementing, and maintaining SuDS, we can help and support the industry for this wider rollout and implementation of SuDS. Then we've been wanting to do this update of the SuDS Manual, which is today the main document that has all the information on SuDS for a good number of years now. But this is not an easy task because of the sheer volume of these documents. It's a static 1,000-page document. And just to do this one big update is something that requires a lot of resources. And we don't really have the time to slow down on the process of updating guidance because we need to implement those SuDS as fast as possible. Next slide, please. What is our vision? So we really want to unlock rainwater management and SuDS. And that's why when we put our heads together and when we drafted this bid, we're like, okay, let's change completely the SuDS manual as it exists now, and let's transform it into a platform which will be free and accessible for all. And that is not a static document. It's not either a searchable PDF. It's way more than that. We want it to be interactive. We want it to be online and to be accessible to a wide variety of users, including not only just the drainage engineers or all the stakeholders already involved with the design and delivery and maintenance of SuDS, but also reaching out to a new audience, the homeowners, when we incorporate the rainwater harvesting dimension of it. And then we want to make it a tool for the next century, right? So something that really take advantage of an online format. So bringing videos, making the linkage between the different components and the different researches within the tool with existing case studies, being able to gather all that and to deliver it to the user in a very effective way. That's really what we aim for. And then in terms of the platform itself, we want it to be agile and modular, and I will talk a little bit more about that. But the idea is that it's not going to be one huge release in one go, but rather it's going to be delivered in trenches. And so we can not only do it in small bites, but also we can test it along the way, and then we can change it as needed based on user feedback. And the goal is, of course, a single source for everything SuDS. Now, obviously, SuDS Manual is very drainage focused, but the rainwater management platform incorporates a philosophical shift for with regard to rainwater. And this shift has been ongoing for quite some years now. And at SuDSDrain, the community of practice for sustainable drainage, we see that evolving every year through our SuDS awards, and more we see the property level SuDS and the school level SuDS and all those that really are on site and are really capturing the water where it falls, and maybe smaller devices, but maybe really taking this water and using it as much as possible. And we see those increasing more and more, which is very encouraging. So from rainwater as a waste, instead of trying to get it out as soon as possible, to pipe it in, and when speed is the priority, we want to change these. And also the early vision to see this rainwater as waste is also about keeping it outside of property lines, and then to actually not taking the benefits that it can bring on the site that it falls, but shifting it and moving it further away. Hard to see, hard to maintain is also something that we've saw in the years, but there is a real shift, and we want to embed this shift into this new guidance tool. So the reuse, of course, is a big opportunity. So reusing for landscaping, domestic industrial uses. It is also really key for any type of landscaping and any green assets, especially when there are very strong drivers for biodiversity more and more with the latest regulation in England with biodiversity net gain. There is also a clear priority and a real need to keep it out of combined sewers. Not only because it would reduce flood risk, but also because it has an impact on the capacity of wastewater treatment plants. And if this capacity is reached, then this is where we have water quality issues because of CSOs. Next slide, please. Okay, we are building this update of the SuDS manual and also the transformation into this rainwater management platform on several things that have occurred in the past couple of years. First of all, new context, new policy, and new drivers. Bridget presented on the new national SuDS standards. So definitely we want to keep those in mind. There's a lot in there that echoes what we are planning to do with this rainwater management platform, with the hierarchy, for example. So it's definitely something that we want to put it in. The last iteration of the SuDS manual was back in 2015, 2016. So, and it's been a few years in the making, which means that what we have in the guidance now is you know, it's a bit dated. So we want to take this opportunity to import and bring in the lessons learned from key projects. Not only the big ones, like the big retrofitting schemes that we've seen these past years, like Mansfield, for example, or Grey to Green, or Greenwich Grandtown, but also learn from the smaller schemes, the small retrofit schemes that were big success, but driven with maybe not as much of a large budget. And so we want to really learn from all those and put the lessons into this new tool. If you want to go back just for a sec.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, no worries. The knowledge, science, and research has also progressed. There's a lot of new guidance that has been published since then, not only from CIRIA, but also from many other organizations. So we want to make sure that this new knowledge has been, you know, is taken in account and incorporated into the content that will be hosted on the rainwater management platform. And of course, with the recent years, more and more case studies has came in. I mean, this is just shown through the SuDS Awards entries that we get every year. And every year we see incredible project that we can definitely learn from. We've also identified some new content that did not exist in the previous SuDS manual, or that existed in a different way, but we want to either update or bring in those new focus in these areas that you see on screen here. So, for example, use of recycled material, carbon is a big one, community maintenance, the asset management side of things, the smart technology, etc., etc. You will see as well biodiversity net gain in there. It's, as I mentioned, it's a key driver that whenever a stakeholder starts on its journey to designing either a retrofit scheme or a new build development, BNG, if it's in England, is probably on the horizon. And BNG and SuDS can play a big role in how we manage the rainwater where it falls. Next one, please. Now, the Ofwat Innovation Fund has a big focus on the innovation part of it, obviously. And so we didn't want to just create something that is like a glorified PDF on a web page. We really wanted to think about innovative ways of conveying good practice. How we, as CIRIA and as the core team that you see on top of the screen, how we are used on conveying this type of information and how we can actually grow out of it into something completely different. So it all started with, okay, if we put it on a platform, it better be not just a static website, but like a innovative, intelligent platform. And we want it to be accessible for everyone from whatever type of devices. So some of the information can be accessed in the field, for example. The user-oriented focus is absolutely key, which means that if you're already a practitioner, you know what's in the SuDS manual. You know that it goes everywhere from the high level, what are SuDS, why to think about SuDS, the philosophy behind it, all the way through very complicated formulas and hydraulic calculations. So we want to make sure through this platform that we can identify a series of personas that will tailor the content that can be extracted from this platform based on the user need. Really different. If you log in and if you say, I'm a homeowner and I want to learn about what can I do on my home to use this rainwater, what can I do? Obviously, it's going to be a different content than if you're a local planning authority or if you are a drainage engineer that is searching for exactly one calculation of one very key topic within the guide. So you want to make sure that it's possible through this platform to do so. Next one, please. I mentioned the platform. It's one thing. This platform will have the updated guidance from the SuDS manual, plus the rainwater harvesting side of things. But also, we are going to build on top of that a series of tools which will help with making decisions when it comes down to designing and to deciding what solution is best for what site. So we want to build in a digital visualization tool, something like easy that can bring a picture up that shows what your site might look like depending on the solution that you are considering. Also, we are going to create a tool that will create automated standard design and specifications and drawings, which hopefully will give a, based on the situation of the user, a bit more in-depth information of what those specs and design could look like depending on the solution that is chosen by the user. There's also the idea of templates and specifications for accepted by highways authorities and utility operators, and this is in terms of continuity. So when we do SuDS retrofit, for example, making sure that whatever is needed, if there is that work that needs to be done on site, that the highways authorities and utility operators have everything they need to making sure that whatever they put back in place is put back in the right way, in a way. And then there's also the auto generation of surveys. So that could be your surveys as you're building, but also the O&M manuals and the maintenance regimes. So the tool based on the solutions that you are thinking of and some aspect of your situation, the context, will be able to generate those. Hopefully this will be really useful. The next 3 slides are part of the bid that we submitted, and this is just a bit more of a visual conveying of what I just mentioned earlier on. So a one-stop digital resource for all, transforming this manual, adding all these new bits, new context and policies, knowledge and research technologies and best practice into a new platform here that incorporates guidance, standards, and tools. Next one, please. This is the outcomes. So those are this is our ambition on how this platform is going to transform some of those industry aspects. Next one, so this is a key one as well. It's a snapshot of all the organizations that are involved with this effort. On the left-hand side, we have all the water companies represented by UCWIR, without whom the support, we couldn't do this. So it's amazing to have them on board. In the middle, we have key stakeholders and regulators, which will be part of the high-level governance of this process. And on the right-hand side, we have the delivery team, which we've put together based on expertise and also based on the SuDS network SuDS network as well. So you can see here, CIWEM is involved as well, which is great to have them on board. Next one. And then lastly, I just want to highlight that this tool is built to evolve. So once we're going to deliver, it's not going to be static at all. It's going to be open to grow with either add-ons or with just refinements. We want to step away from this really hard update cycle when every 10 years we have to pull in a massive amount of resources to do one big release, one big update of one document. Instead, we want to be able to update maybe per topics or whenever there is a key new regulations or new standards or whatever it is. Throughout the delivery process of this tool, we are going to use SuDS, the community of practice of sustainable drainage stakeholders to test it out as we release those small amounts and trenches of this tool. And so it's an iterative process where we can really make sure that the users have a chance to go in, test it, break it maybe, and then we can, on top of it, repair it and make it better iteratively. There's also the opportunity to add on other tools like CIRIA Best, which is our benefits estimation tool, but also SuDS-iQ, which I think it's transitioned perfectly to the third part of this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, okay, so very quickly, SuDS-iQ is another Ofwat Innovation Fund project. It was actually funded last year, the previous round of funding. And the vision for this is taking what we have, HR Wallingford have been developing under our UK SuDS web platform and putting it into a much bigger platform that allows users to compare different SuDS options and understand how they work, how they perform, allow those involved with planning, designing and approving SuDS to get an idea of whether proposed SuDS are likely to be compliant with different criteria without stakeholders needing very costly, complex modelling tools that they may not understand. Providing a platform for users so that different stakeholders can all share access to the same scheme tools, the scheme representations, so that they can share SuDS ideas and proposals and options with those people that they're collaborating with and see how different options might work in a different way or might give a different sort of standard of performance. And also we wanted to use the platform potentially as a mechanism for logging SuDS details, because we're very conscious that SuDS, the definition of SuDS and keeping a record of what SuDS are being built and what their maintenance needs are is really ad hoc at the moment, and that we've got multiple different SuDS stakeholders taking on SuDS and really we're going to end up with a surface water system that isn't that isn't recorded anywhere. So we were trying to potentially build something that might help in that space. So the functionality, a shared collaborative platform that allows partnership working, something that is recognized as not a fully hydrodynamic detailed drainage model, but is sufficiently robust that it can provide a good understanding of how SuDS work and what performance they might deliver, allowing evaluation of schemes against standards, different metrics, performance metrics to be able to appraise different options. That asset definition tool I talked about, so that you can save SuDS asset data consistently. We wanted to build in a SuDS costing and whole life costing calculator and a carbon estimator of different schemes, and also potentially use it to use the tools that we're building to enhance the capability of or speed the capability of water company models, so more detailed drainage models to represent SuDS. So the platform steps that we envisage, and we are currently at the right sort of at the beginning of building this tool, is creating a project, defining your site, your locations, all the different constraints and opportunities there might be on a site, developing the scheme, looking at the site layout, the development layout, where the site drains to, and what objectives you have for your scheme, whether that be retrofit or new build. I say SuDS modeling, but yes, it's simplified modeling that allows you to see how a proposed solution might work. So that will help you select and size SuDS components that are going to manage specific extreme events, and then supporting that collaboration functionality so that different stakeholders can all access it and see what's being proposed and see how that scheme might work, and then being able to generate outputs and potentially including drainage proformas, meeting the needs of SuDS approving bodies, and evaluating whether it's complying with standards. So these are some initial images of the first steps that we've taken. I have to say that they've already changed. We've already built on it. These images were used for our initial workshop that we had with a huge number, I think over 100 stakeholders. We had a set of 3 regional workshops. These images on the left are placeholders. Please don't look at them. They've, I think, AI generated and not appropriate. But basically, this is just demonstrating the process of creating a way of stepping through a project, providing some simple guidance to stakeholders, explaining what sort of information they might need or to either input or to think about, and then getting different bits of information into the tool, where it is, where the site boundaries are, and allowing you to click around a site boundary, and then it will calculate areas for you, allowing you to describe your development, whether it's greenfield, retrofit, previously developed, what the land use types are, how long your development is envisaged for, bringing in rainfall data, whether that's design rainfall data or using a time series of rainfall to look at that interception criteria that I described as one of the standards now, and this shows how you might bring in design storms. You could either put in rainfall depths, or you can bring in your flood design storms from your flood estimation handbook, and then again you can pick different rainfall time series that you might be close to your site. As I said, that's some very initial slides, but we've done a lot of work since then, a lot of progress we've really focusing on hand holding, which then is going to support that upskilling process. So really holding people's hands right from the sort of concept, from having a site all the way through coming up with a sensible scheme, or we're aligning our objectives with the new national standards and to the existing standards in Wales. We're bringing in lots of supporting data so that people don't have to go out to lots of other websites and find that data. So the existing site flood risk, existing the climate change factors, the key stakeholders that you might be needing to talk to, the level of water stress, so you know how important rainwater harvesting is, social deprivation indices, environmentally protected areas, soil types, infiltration rates, geohazards, so you know how viable infiltration might be, and then coming up with estimates of greenfield runoff rates and volumes for you. And then you'll be able to define your building types, your roads, your green space, your car parks, and so that will allow us to work out how much what runoff is going to come off these surfaces and give you an estimate of how much storage you're going to need on your development site. This is picking out, highlighting the rivers and streams near your site, and so you can pick or think about a sensible site outfall. If you need one, if it's not infiltrating, we're going to give users the opportunity to bring in some topographic survey for their site if they have it. Otherwise, we can just use what's available publicly. So it's a question of giving people the option of bringing in their own data, but also bringing in as much data as possible that's freely available, so it's all in one place and as easy to see. So after you've defined your development site, it will give you some guidance on possible SuDS suitability and options, and an initial estimate of how much storage you might need through your site, across your site, and then you'll build and test your SuDS scheme. So this will give you a really simple way of just clicking on SuDS components, of linking SuDS components together to an outfall, and then putting in different parameters for how big your pavement is, how deep it might be, what sort of whether you're going to put gravel underneath it, these are sorts of materials, and lots of these fields will be pre-filled in, so you will only flag the ones that are really, really crucial for you to really consider. And this shows that you'll be able to build this scheme over the top of a georeferenced site plan. So you're not going to be building it on a blank page. And then it's going to have out results. These look very academic. This is the output from a sort of research project we've done so far, but as we develop the tool, we'll make those really user-friendly, these outputs. But the key ones are going to obviously be peak flow. What are the peak flow rates? Does it comply with the standards? How much flooding is occurring from either the whole drainage system or from different components, and what that flooding might look like and the implications there might be. Aqua built a cost and carbon tool for SuDS, and so we're going to bring that tool into SuDS-iQ, so that when you're building up your SuDS, you can get that initial first estimate. And we're also going to bring in a maintenance calculator as cost estimator as well. And this is what the Aqua tool currently looks like in terms of building up SuDS components and then putting a cost on it. But as I say, we're doing this already in SuDS-iQ, so we're going to be able to come up with a cost very easily. So this is what the website where it is, which gives you some idea of where we are in terms of progress, and also gives you an email address for if you want to get involved, in testing the tools as we develop them, or taking part in workshops, which we'll be holding in the autumn as our first major development. Well, that's it. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Bridget, Adrian. So we'll take some questions in a minute, just while we're on the questions. So just a reminder, put them in the Q&A. We've got quite a few. If you want to upvote them, then you can like the questions, because we may not have a chance to get through them all. We can slightly overrun. And just before we go to the questions, if we look at the next slide, these are some of the events coming up, CIWEM events. So there's an early career professional conference in September. There's the annual dinner on the 23rd of September. There's the CIWEM Urban Drainage Group annual conference in November. And there's the Flood and Coast Conference and Exhibition, which is next June in 2026. And if you go to the CIWEM webpage, events page, which is at the top of this, you can see what events are being planned both nationally and also via the various groups. And as I said, There are recordings of previous events on the CIWEM YouTube channel. And then just before we go to questions, we've got these websites, CIWEM websites, which give you details of the CIWEM training policies. And just to remind you that CIWEM supports a variety of publications, 2 journals, Journal of Flood Risk Management and Water and Environmental Journal, and also the Environment magazine. So let's go to some questions. Or maybe, because we've got quite a few, I'll try and go to maybe the ones that have been, that most people have liked. So that, in terms of the most liked question, there's a question from Mike Smith saying, how are these non-technical standards enforceable through the planning system? Sorry, how are they enforceable through the planning system without the implementation of Schedule 3?
I don't think they're any more enforceable than they have been for the last few years. Although I did see some LinkedIn post of a council that was trying to work out how they could make them sort of mandatory, and I'm not quite sure how they were planning on doing that. But I guess it's the degree to which planning officers prioritize these and are able to you know, to be firm with developers and push back to the developers if they haven't met them. Hopefully that they should give planners more. The fact that they're more detailed and more explicit about the whole multifunctional benefits of such should give planners a stronger way of pushing back against end of pipe basically grey solutions, which they've had no mechanism to push back on until now. But Adrian, I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
No, nothing more than that. I think it's still a question mark with regard to a Schedule 3 type routes for making those sets more mandatory, or a strengthening of the planning system to have those standards more mandatory as well. But I think it's still undecided what where the government is going to go with this.
Okay. And then we've got another question from Chris Connor, which was, how will planning authorities or the LFA, I presume that's the local lead flood authority, respond when developers provide cost-based justifications? Keep losing the questions. Cost-based justifications for not implementing rainwater harvesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost the same question, but they at least, I suppose it's a step forward to at least them having to provide those justifications. I think there's a long way to go to get rainwater harvesting sort of accepted publicly and commercially accepted, and I'm hoping that this rainwater management platform is and the energy of the water companies behind it will push that agenda faster and further and mean that things become easier. But I think there are, that's cost one, but I think there are a lot of barriers there, but which we can't afford there to be if our climate and the prevalence of droughts increases.
Yeah, as we include more and more rainwater harvesting details into the platform, I think we'll also have more information on cost and maybe do a little bit of a myth busting exercise as well to try to see the cost of those depending on the size of development and the ongoing maintenance and all that, and trying to offset those with the benefits that those would bring not only to the homeowners but also to the surrounding area.
I think there's probably a route. Well, I think incentivization, financial incentivizations are really important, and I know that our sponsor Matt Wielden at Wessex is really trying to push government to consider financial incentivization for property level rainwater management, so stopping, disconnecting surface water from the sewers, and increasing incentivization for rainwater harvesting. So I think it probably, I think probably it needs that incentivization methods need to go hand in hand with this.
Okay. This is another question from Chris Connors, but it's been liked a lot. I think it's an important one. It says SuDS-iQ appears to use the FSR flood studies report rainfall data. Are there plans to integrate flood estimation handbook data, given that many locally flood authorities now prefer models based on the flood estimation handbook?
Yeah, so we absolutely will promote the flood estimation handbook method. So we will allow, we will promote the people to bring in the rainfall files from the flood estimation handbook. The challenge is, so that's for development. Once you've got your development in, definitely using those new rainfall files. I think that's absolutely key. The thing that we would think that should be pushed back on is using the flood estimation handbook methods to determine greenfield runoff rates for the sites, because the flood estimation handbook methods are complex and require access to software which drainage designers, and particularly landscape designers and other people that are involved in designing sites, will not have access to all the technical skills to use. So we think that greenfield runoff estimates are incredibly uncertain and just there to provide a baseline low levels of runoff rate for the development site. So we're not sure that I mean, you can use the some of the methods, but not the full methods. So the simple statistical equations in the FEH methods, that those that can be used. But again, you've got to get the data off a website that costs you a bit of money. Not a lot, actually. So for those methods, so that's probably not too bad.
Okay. Another question. This is probably one for Adrian. From Justine Coombe. When is the RMP due to be available for use?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a key information I didn't mention. So we are just starting on the journey, but we have 2 years to implement it. So 2027 is when we're looking to have a tool available for the audience to use. As I mentioned, we will have early versions of the tool that will be released earlier than 2027, but we will probably use these early versions to run them via SuDS-Drain, which comprises of some of the target audience for them to give us feedback on it. And if we identify some missing key audience, then we will make sure to involve them in the testing process. So okay. 2027.
Thank you. And then a question from Eva Linnell, which I think is probably to both of you, which says, we have lots of passionate practitioners in this field, but the public narrative on pollution completely ignores the role of climate change on rainwater and rising impermeable area that would empower the public to do their bit. Are organisations like CIWEM and CIRIA spreading this message beyond the practitioner circle? I think we can probably only answer from CIRIA, but anyway, if you can, Adrian, maybe you can answer for CIRIA, I don't know.
Well, I think this is a dimension that we are trying to push as much as we can. So we want to recognize the full spectrum of the SuDS industry, recognizing all the different solutions, what they can bring, the different advantages and benefits of those. But also we need to recognize the key bits that planted area and permeable surfaces are really extremely important, especially in our cityscapes. So we have a few tools for that, like CIRIA Best is a good one because it actually shows the benefits of doing blue and green infrastructure versus gray assets. And so this is all about exactly this. How do you bring the blue and green and what benefits you get out of it? Whereas it's city cooling, traffic calming, pollution, air quality improvement, all that. And also, of course, resilience towards impacts of climate change. So we're trying to do our bit as much as possible, and we always try to mention the surface vegetated solutions, nature-based solutions as being the things we want to promote. Bridget, I don't know if you want to add something.
Well, I was saying from a public perspective, probably the worst thing is just paving over driveways, and so that that's been such a massive had a massive impact in urban spaces, and it's very difficult. So the opportunity, the level of resourcing of local authorities to be able to enforce this planning policy that says you shouldn't, you're not allowed to pave over driveways with anything impermeable is really lacking. So I think, it will be important as part of the Rainwater Management Platform project to try and get the message to local homeowners, and that is very much part of that. And I think there's again linked to financial incentivization, perhaps to disconnect so that you're not putting impermeable surface runoff from your property into the drains.
Yeah, and exploring how to convey that the features within the homes are drainage features, and what maintenance is needed, if any, and making sure that this information is conveyed when there is a change of ownership, pretty much. So yeah, a key question. Okay. Thank you for that.
I know we're slightly over time, but I think we can continue if you want to stay on, because we've got lots of questions, maybe another 10 or 15 minutes. So Leon Lundy says, any discussion of quality standards to support use of stormwater in non-potable applications?
So this is about water reuse?
I presume so, yes.
Yeah, probably something to explore within the Rainwater Management Platform.
Okay. And then another question from Chris Connor, which I think is a good one. It's been liked a lot. So I know Chris has asked lots of questions, but this is one. With CIRIA planning to release automated tools, including standard design specifications and drawings, how does the guidance ensure that these resources are used appropriately by qualified drainage engineers rather than being misapplied by non-specialists who may not fully understand the site-specific or regulatory nuances of SuDS designs?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And thank you, Chris, for the question. Thank you, Alejandro, for your response as well, which is really good. And Chris, for the clarification below this. I think that this will be the role of the Rainwater Management Platform to clearly define the different personas and the content that can be attached to the different personas. And also, of course, to really clearly lay out the level of expertise that is needed to carry on with whatever design, implementation, or maintenance of those sets. So I think we will try to do our best to making sure that there's a clear, language on there, or maybe it's a checklist. We haven't explored the idea of a certificate as you have here, but that could be a good idea as well. But making sure that the guidance that is being provided goes with here are your next steps, and here you should be talking to. Here is where you should seek professional advice, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think it will be giving them a design drawing, but then there will be associated sort of specification points with that drawing to make sure that they have all the information they need to be able to apply or to seek extra help. I think it's a fine balance because in the previous SuDS manual we didn't provide any standard drawings, and we try to keep away from standardizing anything because we felt that that design should be very bespoke and should be very site specific, and it should be and that we didn't want people lifting drawings and just having SuDS looking the same everywhere. But the trouble is, what we found is that on many development sites, SuDS are there are very, very poor quality SuDS, and we feel now that the use of standard design drawings is the only way to try and improve that situation and improve the quality of SuDS that are going in as standard to development sites.
Okay, just to try and get through a few more. So we've got Alexandra Dusselon from UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. So if you prioritise collection over infiltration you're not really mitigating the impact of urbanisation on the natural water cycle and preventing groundwater recharge, which might be key in some areas. Why is this? Isn't this a bit inflexible?
Yes, I think I think there will need to be more guidance on areas where, I mean, in general, I guess the amount of surface water from roof surfaces that is going to go into groundwater might not have a significant impact in a number of cases on groundwater recharge. It might be, but I think there are, and also you're not going to harvest all of the rainwater. But yeah, I think there's probably some more nuanced guidance that should be considered alongside the current recommendations in terms of moving between priority levels, as to scenarios where infiltration and the balance between infiltration and rainwater harvesting needs to be, people need to be careful about that. And that was something actually we raised earlier, but hasn't been brought forward into these standards.
Another question from Eleanor Reed, which is, will more be done by CIRIA/CIWEM to ensure schools and universities are teaching students about SuDS at the same time as inspiring the next generation, particularly given the skill shortage?
Bridget, do you want to talk about CIWEM or?
Well, I don't really want to talk about
that. I think both of these developments, I think both the rainwater management platform and the SuDS-iQ will provide the tech that will be exciting and to school children and university students. So, and give them tools that they can use free of charge to evaluate schemes and look at options and things. So I think we're providing two resources which are going to be really valuable in that space, and the fact that we're creating personas means that any, hopefully sort of the full range of levels of should be accessible to people from primary schools upwards. So I'm hopeful it's going to be an important and good resource, and I know that SuDS is now part of the A-level curriculum, having just been through with my daughter geography A-level. So yeah, I think things are changing, definitely.
Okay, just another, this might be a very quick one, which is from Martin Riches, which is a standard 1 priority for another piped surface water drainage system. Does this include highway drainage?
Yes, it does include highway drainage. The surface water drainage system or highway drain, but that is obviously subject to agreement with the highways authorities. And we all recognise there is a lot of work to do with with aligning highway authority objectives with SuDS rainwater management objectives.
Okay, and then Angad Flora asked about treatment, saying with all the harsh chemicals, microplastics, tyre runoff from highways, how will nature-based solutions prove that it's treating these harsh man-made chemicals?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that through the rainwater management platform, there's going to be the idea of a scalability as well in terms of what intervention works for what context. And so highway runoff is, well, depend on the road we're talking about, right? And depend on the size and the frequency, sorry, the usage of the road, then all intervention might not work the same. So we're going to try to signpost all that within the tool to making sure that that the appropriate solution is installed near the road, depending on context, pretty much.
Also, there's a lot of research going on in this space. I know Leanne, who asked the question, she's got a PhD student going to be working on this. I've got there's a PhD student in Newcastle who's just starting on looking at pollution migration through bioretention soil layers. Some of the manufacturers have done a lot of research into the extent to which different pollutant types and contaminants can be removed by and what the implications are for maintenance long term, and for the contaminated nature of the soil and how that sits in the urban space. So I think it's probably an area which we're not going to have all the answers to within the 2-year life cycle of this project, but I think it's an area that we're going to be able to update within hopefully five years, and when we've got a much more concrete understanding. I mean, it's only relatively recently in the last couple of years that people have really accepted the fact that our national highways network is contaminating our water bodies. So I think there's a long way to go, but we're at least starting. At least there is now understanding and recognition of the challenge of the risks.
Okay, the numbers are dropping off, so maybe another 3 questions. An anonymous attendee has said asked about that it was mentioned that Acquia have developed a SuDS costing tool in Excel in 2024, but I can't find this online. Is this tool publicly available? And if so, is there a link to it?
Yeah, no, I remembered actually after putting it in that Acquia have not found a way to be able to publish it, apparently. So that the tool was created, but then not put on their new website because there's some challenges with it. So that means that it's even more important that we include it within our tool. I don't know whether if you actively inquired from Acquia and asked if they could send it to you, whether then perhaps they might. You'd probably have to pay for it. That's the other thing. But at least on our tool, it will be free to access.
Okay, and then a question from Adam, which is slightly different tack.
But there is a report that is accessible, but it's just not. I think that just the tool isn't.
Okay, so Adam says, we're a small drainage company based in North Yorkshire. We're upskilling and joining the SuDS national uptake, but are struggling to find a good path to get opportunities for upcoming jobs. What suggestions do you have for this? I thought
SuDS jobs. Well, there's quite a lot of sort of little studies that are done by local authorities. Otherwise, I guess you need to align yourself with a developer, or again talk to developers trying to get become friends with them and influence what they're delivering.
I don't do too much of promotion, but SuDS Drain is actually a place where you can put your company and meet other stakeholders, developers, SuDS designers, and all that, and increase your visibility within what you're doing. So maybe that's an option as well.
I think I'm really sorry that we haven't been able to get through all the questions, but I think we better wrap up because the numbers are dropping off. So thank you very much, Adrienne and Bridget, and also Barbara at CIWEM for organising this event, and thank you all for attending. So I know that, and certainly Adrian's email address is in the chat if you want to contact him if your question hasn't been answered and you maybe want to get an answer, and he may be able to help you. I don't know about Bridget, but there are plenty of links to the initiatives in the chat if you want to look at the chat and get more information. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
So we had a good
Thanks,
number.
Bridget.
I'll send the report to you at the end. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
All right.
Thanks, Adrienne.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.